What's up, my nerds? It's ToastedLombax back with another episode of Thymesia, and in this particular one, we're actually ranking bosses, and it's the first video I'm doing of this kind for the channel. I've always kind of wanted to do a rankings thing, but with this one having very short bosses, I was able to get back into the fights quickly and be able to record footage for this. So all these fights, I've gone through all the levels again just to get to each boss so I can have the recorded footage without me talking over it in the episode itself, so I can just talk over the boss fight and say what I like about it, what I don't like about it, blah blah blah. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 8, God of Fools. So this boss, quotation marks, I honestly don't see why it's a boss. We do nothing to chip away at its HP throughout the entire encounter. I mean, that's all it is, really. It's a special event encounter type dealio. I mean, we come across some tough enemies. I think we fight Bozo the Clown and that knife-throwing lady woman thing. You know, they were probably the hardest parts of this, even though I had fought them before. I'd say the knife thrower gave me more hassle than Bozo, because Bozo's quite easy to read, whereas the knife thrower, she jumps around a lot and is a little bit difficult there. And you kind of have to come across her, whereas with Bozo, you don't. You can just skip him, because as it turns out, you don't even need to pop the cysts, I think they're called. You don't even need to do anything. You literally just get to the end of the level, press a button, that's it, boss over. It may as well just be a regular level without the title of a boss, in my opinion. But yeah, what can you do? Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Number 7, Sound of the Abyss. Now, this particular boss, it's better than the last one. You know, you had the chance to get in, hit some vulnerable bits, as you would do with something of this giant scale. You just kind of got to wait your turn out, and just do the damage that you want to do. It's a bit of a shame it only had the limited moveset that it had, so just doing this roof attack here, and then it comes up off the ground. Then it had the side swipe where it would take over the whole platform and you had to get into a little cubby hole, and then it had the what was it, this charge attack. So it was where like it shot its head towards you, and it sometimes did it once, it sometimes did it twice. It's probably the most variant you got out of it. Not the biggest moveset you see on a boss, and even then, in Phase 2, it just kind of goes apeshit. You can just go hide in a little cubby hole until it chills out, and then you just go stab it in its mouth, and it's kind of done. As, like, the type of thing that it is, it wasn't bad. Could have been better, really, but, you know, it was still a much more fun boss than the last one was. But yeah, so sorry about that sound. You're stuck at 7 with me here. Let's move on to the next one. Number 6, the Hanged Queen. So this encounter, this one I did enjoy a little bit. I was a little bit shocked when it healed and how much it healed of itself. I mean, when I first went up against it, I was like, oh my god, this thing's healing quicker than I can deal damage to it. But I mean, then I just kind of came up with the strategy of just smacking it so much, get the white bar down as much as I could. Because when the white bar recovers, that's when you're in a bit of trouble, because it's like, oh well, I can't get it to do my claw attack now. So if I just kept hitting and hitting and hitting with the white attack, then I could deal as much damage as I want to do. And it's probably the only boss where I favoured dodging over the parry system, because I love the parry system in this game. It made it for me. The fact that parry dealt damage to the white bar, so then when you finished parrying, you could get in with the green attacks and just deal damage that way. For me, that's how I played most of the game. It was very much an enjoyable mechanic. I know there's other people out there who play the dodging mechanic and then just going for the quick kills, blah blah blah. But like the Hanged Queen, this is so. Since this fight, for the rest of the game, I then started to take away more of the white bar than I really needed to, so that if I could chain together a couple of the green claw attacks, and that's one thing that really, it made me appreciate, you know, that kind of thing, where it was to deal all that damage. But still, I mean, it was an interesting fight. and that's why it's only here at 6. I just find all the human-sized fights much better than these larger fights in this game. But that's personal preference. I mean, what can you do, you know? It is a fun fight, but there are better fights in the game. But yeah, that's going to be it for the Hanged Queen. So let's move on to the next one. Number 5, Mutated Odor. Now this fight itself, this is a pretty cool fight, but this is kind of what you would expect Phase 2 of the original Order to be more of. I mean, I'm glad it is a separate fight, because it changes the way that the fight works. I mean, with his tentacles and getting extremely long-range attacks, it was a bit more difficult than I would have liked it to have been. I mean, even when I was recording this footage for like the background, I think I died more to this boss than I did most of the others. I think there was only one other boss that was giving me a lot of jip when I was trying to get this recording done, and that was the Varg, I think his name is, the guy you fight in the tutorial and you fight before. I think he's the last main story boss. Because I think, what was it, you get 4 main story bosses and you get 4 side bosses that you've got to do the side quests for. And this guy's, you know, he's one of those side bosses, so you don't have to do him. But it would have been nice to have maybe even had it as part of the same level, so you beat Odor, and then maybe you do a little bit more running around, and then you fight Mutated Odor. I reckon you could have taken him on at that kind of power level that you were when you finished Order. And as you can see, this fight is before Order, so you can see that I preferred that fight over this one. But nonetheless, I mean, the fight was pretty fun. Learning his attack patterns was interesting. But sometimes his attacks weren't as easily telegraphed as some of the other bosses. And there's so many times he'd do that step back and I'd get caught by his tentacles. I'm like, shit, I didn't mean for that to happen. But once I'd learned like what I can parry, what I should be dodging, because you can pretty much parry almost everything he does here. I don't think he has a green attack that you need to dodge, and he does have his super attack, but he very rarely uses it, to be honest, especially if you can get him down pretty quickly. But yeah, I mean, he's alright. He's not one of the best ones, but he's alright. And I think that's it for the lower half of the list, so we'll be moving on to the higher half after this one. So let's move on to the next guy. Number 4, Varg. Now Varg, I really enjoyed this fight. It was potentially one of the only fights where you could literally just counterattack, 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 counterattack. So long as you... Sorry, parry attack. So long as, you know, you read his moves correctly, you really didn't need to dodge a single thing, which probably goes against the whole variety thing. I think what he has, maybe he's 4 move sets, most of them 2 or 3 sword slashes, and he has that jumping attack as well, which is pretty cool. And this guy gave me a lot of trouble when I was recording this for this particular episode. I think I died against this guy another 10 or 11 times, just simply because I was trying to, like, yeah, I can get that parry, and I can totally get that parry, and then I die. Like, balls to it. But I really like this. I mean, it's a big human, he's got a big sword, he telegraphs his attacks really well, so you know how to react to his attacks. I mean, some of them, like that stab there, it's like a little bit slow, so sometimes it would put you off and you'd be like, oh, I parried too early, or I dodged too early. But such an enjoyable fight. I think, like, even though it's only 4th on my list right now, because there are some better bosses out there, it's definitely one of my all-time favorite of Souls-like bosses. I mean, I could do like a top 10 list of all my Souls-likes, and I definitely have Varg in there somewhere. Maybe even if I just picked like 2 bosses from different games and just threw them all into a gigantic list, maybe. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this fight, and it is. I just wish we had more similar to this fight in the game. I mean, if we can just get rid of that god fight thing, not even a real fight, and replace it with something like this, I'd have been so happy. Maybe even if we get some DLC, I hope we get more bosses of this kind of caliber than we did of the other one. Now, unfortunately, this clip is a lot longer than I can talk about this boss, so I'm just going to let you enjoy the rest of this fight. It doesn't look like it's going to last much longer anyway, so I'll meet you at the next boss, shall I? Number 3, Erd. Now, Erd was a phenomenal fight. Like, when I first did the fight, I kind of felt like I knew what I was doing, but at the same time I didn't. I mean, obviously I had to learn the movesets of the fight, and it's a very rhythmic fight. I mean, she's got those... I think, again, her move list is quite small. I mean, maybe it's, what, 4 standard attack type things, and then... she's got the sword throw, which creates that worm tall attack thing, and you know, she does 3 of them in like each type of the phases. I don't think I ever had it where she had more than 3 swords in the ground at any one time, because you feel like you have to beat her quickly. She's moving around very fast, and that was a really cool thing. Like, not all of your attacks were going through. It was a little frustrating. It was like, blah, 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 blah. But it's more of an attest to how quick she moves. You're like, well, I need to change my strategy to match her speed, to match her style, because she gets a lot of quick attacks in. I think it was one of the first times I came across anything where I had to spam the parry button just simply to survive an attack. And she with the speed that she has, she does telegraph her attacks. Just sometimes you'd be stuck in a heat of the battle and you might not see it properly. You're like, but I mean, still, it is a very, very enjoyable fight. I mean, I don't think there was very many enemies of this type, which I think is what really made it enjoyable. You know, she was a single sword wielder. She had a lot of speed. She moved around a lot, so it felt very fresh in the game. Because I think one of the complaints of the game, and it's a general complaint with everyone, I totally get it, there's not that many enemy types. I mean, sure, there's all the different weapons, which creates the different enemy types, but it's all the same people wielding the same weapons. Like, there's not like a fast guy with an axe, or a slow guy with a knife or something. You know, they were just the same people throughout. But when you consider that these are all literally citizens of the same place, and it's a very short game, you wouldn't expect... I mean, I personally wouldn't expect more than what there was already in the game. I mean, I completed it initially in, what, about 12 hours? Got through all the missions, and I spent a couple of more hours just refighting some of the bosses, because I had such a fun time fighting the bosses. And yeah, and this one, I think I fought her more times than I needed to for recording purposes, just because I really enjoyed the fight. And, you know, I was like, I have to do this. It's such a good, fun fight. But yeah, I think I've talked about this one enough. As you can see, we're in the second phase and we're almost finished with the fight. So I'm going to let this play out, and I'll see you at the next boss. Number 2, Corvus. Or more specifically, the conflict within Corvus's memories or mind. I think it describes it as, and we still don't even see who the victor is. I mean, was it this glowing green Corvus that won in the end? Or was it us Corvus who've been playing the game throughout? Maybe we were swapping between the characters and we didn't even really know it, and we were just having a fight with a mirror match. Just for the sake of it. And I think that's why I've picked this to be second, is because it is a mirror match. I always find when games do, oh, it's a dark counterpart, oh, it's a shadow of yourself, oh, it's this. And I'm like, nah, it's a bit of a cheap concept for a boss. And some of them are pretty good. Like, this is a really good fight. And like, you've been playing as a character throughout the whole game, but you may not have learned all of his movesets, and I think that's one thing that really makes this boss so good, is because it does throw everything at you. So it's got his 6-sword combo, it's got his fast claw and his long claw attack. He uses all of his different type, well, he uses most of the reeved weapons, which is pretty cool as well. I really like the fact that he varied that, and it wasn't just the same one over and over and over again. Although I still was never quite sure which ones I could parry and which ones I needed to dodge, or even just try and do that jumping attack, because I never used feathers in this fight if I could help it. I preferred that step jump thing, and that was definitely a cool concept to let us do that instead of the feathers. And it just meant, because I never used the feathers, I could focus all my talents into other aspects. And this guy really pushed my parrying to its limits, because it was just kind of learning that attack pattern so I could get the rhythm of it. So the claw attack goes 2, 3, 2. The sword attack goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1. And just learning that parry system to fight this guy and deal that white damage, so then I could just get in and cleave the damage with the claws afterwards was really fun. Now, I mean, I've fought this guy at least 50 times at this point. Obviously, I've only beaten him 6 times, because I had to beat him 5 times for the 5 different endings, and then I had to beat him once again for this. And it is a really enjoyable fight, and I did not mind doing that many times. You know, it was just a great chance to do it again and again and again. So much fun with this boss. The rhythm to the fight, the overall like movements, the fact that every time he attacked you, you got a little bit of chance for healing as well, which is really nice. There's not very many bosses but like, oh yeah, you can have a second to heal. I know I just brutalized the hell out of you, but yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about the Corvus fight. So we'll just let this play out, and I'll see you at the next boss. Number 1, Odor, the Ringmaster, or is it Ringleader? I can never remember those terms. But yeah, so Odor, there's like several reasons why he's my number 1, and the biggest one itself being is that Odor helps you kind of decide what kind of playthrough you're going to go through. For me, it was the parry. Like, this guy was so parryable, and it really got me into the groove of parrying throughout the rest. Like, I didn't really parry before I got to the boss, and then I really struggled with the boss. I think I died to him a good 10 times before I was like, right, okay, can I parry this? Can I parry that? And I started to learn the techniques to parry against certain attacks, what I couldn't, and since he telegraphs his attacks so well, you could be ready. You could be like, right, parry this, parry that, parry that. His pacing is really good. The fact that he has both a long range and close range attacks is awesome, because, you know, sometimes you get that aggro boss who's just in your face all the time, and you're like, let me get away and breathe for a second, please. And it's such an awesome fight that combines, you know, all the aspects that you'd want to. Like I said, it sets that tone for how you're going to play the game itself. And it's a really cool design as well. Like, it's really simple. It's just some kind of ringleader kind of costume. The cane as a weapon is a really cool concept. The fact that he throws playing cards, presumably they're playing cards, at you as a weapon. And he just looks so slick. You know, visually and gameplay wise, I just think this the superior boss out of all of the bosses in the game. And I really don't have much more to say to that, so let's enjoy the rest of this fight before we go to the outro. So that's my personal rankings of the bosses based on whether I had fun doing it, how much I learned during the fights, etc, blah blah blah. But that is going to be it for this particular episode. So thank you very much for watching this one. I really appreciate it. Whatever it is that you're doing, wherever it is that you are, I hope that you have a great time. And I shall see you in the next one.